Yes.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Dr. Ada, give me the cue when we're ready.
Sorry?
Give me the cue when we're ready. I see the whiteboard here. What are we doing the whiteboard?
Where is the board? Where is the whiteboard here?
You put it there.
I don't know how you got there. Okay. It's now live. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Okay. The 2024 High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development was convened under the auspices of the Economic and Social Council, also known as ECOSOC, from Monday, July 8, 2024 to Thursday, the 18th of July, 2024 in New York. The high-level segment of the Economic and Social Council, including the ministerial segment of the High-Level Political Forum, the theme reinforcing the 2030 agenda and eradicating poverty in times of multiple crises, the effective delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions, enacted further action on in-depth review of SDGs 1, 2, 13, 16, and 17. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is His Excellency Dr. Devon Bannister. I am the Pro-Chancellor for Psych International University and Seminary. Let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for being here this evening with us as WOLMI International Consulting Cabinet Department of Northeastern Affairs hosts their side event here on the 2024 United Nations High-Level Political Forum. This evening, you will be hearing from a number of distinguished peace ambassadors who will be addressing various SDGs ranging from SDGs 1, SDGs 2, 13, 16, and 17. I will be informing you a little bit on each of them as in relation to what they will be discussing. But before I do that, let me take this time to acknowledge the presence of one of our keynote speakers who will be here with us, who's here with us this evening. He is none other than His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Denis Antoine. He's the former Vice President for the UN General Assembly 69th session. Let me take the opportunity to acknowledge and to say thank you very much to His Excellency the Right Honorable Dr. Philip Esfin, the Chief Executive Officer for WOLMI International Consultancy Cabinet. Also to the head of the department, Her Excellency Ambassador Professor Dr. Ada Okika Menekaya. So this evening, I just want to let you know that in reinforcing the 2030 agenda, Word of Life Ministries International, a UN-accredited faith-based organization, enacted action to utilize the Acts 915 to bring peace ambassadors into technical operation initiative for advancement of SDGs in faith-based community. WOLMI inaugurated the International Consulting Cabinet, creating 38 departments to accommodate the 17 SDGs and 169 targets in contributing to sustainable future of human development and the future of the world wants for generation. It also appointed peace ambassadors and has created a network of more than 2,000 ambassadors across the world. I repeat, it also appointed peace ambassadors and created a network of more than 2,000 peace ambassadors across the world. And just a side note, they just had a beautiful celebration that was made to understand on May 20th and 21st in Orlando, Florida. For those of you that might want to go if you missed the last, come next year, May 20th and 21st. I got word that they will be celebrating again. These ambassadors have continued to ensure that the mission of WOLMI International Consulting Cabinet advances the SDGs and the UN Development Agenda effectively. Through the vision of His Excellency, the Right Honorable Dr. Philip S. Finn, the Department of Northeastern Affairs at WOLMI have, in the 4 years, committed to join the UN member states to a review of SDGs in contribution to the overall mission of WOLMI-ICC. These reviews create opportunities for practical diplomatic principles and operation, diplomatic oral statements and appearances, and interventions, actions that could be expanded in commitment to the goals of the United Nations and the WOLMI-ICC. I will excuse myself here, and I would like to ask for Professor Ada Juni Okika to come and give us the advancing SDGs for WOLMI-ICC agenda, the role of the Department of the Northeastern Affairs of the WOLMI-ICC. Please unmute your mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, the United Nations Commission on Sustainable Development was established by the UN General Assembly in December 1992 to ensure effective follow-up of the United Nations Conference on Environmental and Development, also known as the Earth Summit. This was the first UN body on sustainable development, and it played an important role in keeping sustainable development high on the international agenda. From its inception, the Commission on Sustainable Development was highly participatory in structure and outlook by engaging in its formal proceeding a wide range of official stakeholders and partners through innovative formula. The 2013 report of the Secretary General of the United Nations on lessons learned from the Commission on Sustainable Development identified that a high-level political forum was required to be able to review implementation of sustainable development and to respond with sufficient flexibility to new and emerging issues. The UN General Assembly Resolution of 67/203 recommended that the Commission on Sustainable Development hold its last session in 2023, thereby bringing in the high-level political forum to replace the Commission on Sustainable Development. The establishment of the United Nations High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, the HLPF, was mandated in 2012 by the outcome document of the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, Rio 20 in Brazil, titled The Future We Want. The outcome document was endorsed by and annexed in UNGA Resolution 66/288. Heads of state and government and high-level representatives met at the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development in 2012 in Rio 20, with the full participation of civil society to renew commitment to sustainable development and to ensure the promotion of an economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable future for our planet and for present and future generations. In commitment to the ECOSOC status of World of Life Ministries International, being the very first faith-based organization to obtain consultative status under the platform of Economic and Social Council at the United Nations, the international consultative status was established by the board to advance the vision of His Excellency, Right Honorable Dr. Philip Finn for Kingdom Ambassadors with the mission on focus on Act 915. With the establishment of WOLMI-ICC, Department of Northeastern Affairs was mandated to provide practical knowledge about the United Nations, resources and education on the United Nations, as well as taking the community to the UN and the UN to the community. In the past 4 years, we took to align our content on peace ambassadors through voluntary ambassadors SDG review during the UN High-Level Political Forum. And we have successfully participated alongside with UN member states on the reviews of the SDGs in each annual year review for the High-Level Political Forum. Mr. Chair, as the Chief Governor of the Department of Northeastern Affairs, I am pleased that these commitments have taken further to understanding the United Nations through our research, presentations, and participation. We have in the past 4 years been part of the SDG reviews and are pleased to put these reviews of peace ambassadors into a journal in our contribution to the advancement of WOLMI-ICC mission and vision. I want to thank the ambassadors for the committed efforts and time during the research and reviews which had accorded them the privilege to make the presentations today. As you listen to the presentation on their review, you will agree with our department that we are not only committing to the mission of WOLMI-ICC, but also equipping ambassadors adequately for the future we want for our generation. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know many would be happy to know how they will be able to get a copy of these reviews. So I know by the ending of the night, after everyone that is attending here, that is listening, they will be excited to know how they can get a copy of these reviews. So I know the information will be provided at the end, so we look forward to hearing such. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for advising us on the role of the Department of the Northeastern and the Northeastern Affairs. At this time, we will now be hearing from he is here. We will now be hearing from His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Denis Antoine, the former Vice President for the UN General Assembly 69th session.
Recording in progress.
Father Bullock, if you don't mind, please. Can you please mute your mic, please? Thank you. His Excellency will be speaking to us on reinforcing the 2030 agenda and eradicating poverty in times of multiple crises, the effective delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions. His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Antoine, you have the floor.
Let me thank you, Dr. Bannister, and to greet all the distinguished panelists and peace ambassadors. I have been always ready to participate in activities when Dr. Ada calls. The High-Level Political Forum 2024 for sustainable, it is about a forum on sustainable development. We must not mistake the purpose and the function. The HLPF, as it's called in acronym, which concluded yesterday, the 18th, under the auspices of the Economic and Social Council, that is ECOSOC. This includes 3-day ministerial as part of the high-level segment of ECOSOC. And the last day of the high-level segment was yesterday, the 18th of July. Now, the theme was reinforcing the 2030 agenda and eradicating poverty in times of multiple crises. It was about addressing the effective delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions. The HLPF in 2024 focused on the indivisible and interlinked nature of the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, and it was a review, an in-depth review of a number of the priority SDGs. I call them priority SDGs because without these SDGs in place and successful, it's like spinning top in mud. We're not going anywhere. So the focus on SDG number 1, that is poverty in all its forms everywhere, was the deliberations. And on SDG number 2, to end hunger and achieve food security aimed at improved nutrition and to promote the sustainable agriculture. You recall that we went through the COVID and we went through the breakup of the supply chain. And there was a great setback. And there were hungry mouths to feed as a result of the lack of food. So goal number 13 also became critically important because it is about the impact of climate change. And as you recall, the COP, which took place, 28, reviewed again the impact of COVID and how countries suffered a very devastating setback in achieving the goals that they set out to. So, to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Now, in speaking about climate change and its impacts, you recall 2 weeks ago, the SEEDS Forum took place in Antigua and Barbuda, and it was taking place just in the wake almost of a devastating hurricane in our region, which played havoc on my country, Grenada. It wiped out parts of St. Vincent, Jamaica, and so the issue of climate change remains a very critical priority item. And we're talking about resiliency. How do we make our countries resilient to the impact of climate change? Now, urgent action to combat climate change remains highest on our agenda, particularly in this hurricane season for the region. Now, and goal number 16, which is aimed at promoting peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. That means providing access to justice for all and to build effective and accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. Now, where there are no viable institutions, we do not have development. Development suffers. And it is very critical to take note that in order to strengthen this thrust toward achieving the sustainable goals, there must be strengthened means in the implementation and the revitalization of global partnerships. Now remember, we are in an interdependent process. And those who focus on global partnership, the globalists, sustainable development relies on reliable global partnership. And so the HLPF, which we are discussing, was convened under the auspices of the General Assembly in 2023. Now, the HLPF in July 2024 was under the auspices of ECOSOC. What must be borne in mind is the HLPF expressed support for the implementation of the political declaration of the SDG Summit, which was held in 2023. Now, for advancing the 2030 SDGs, you remember a summit was held last year for advancing the SDGs, taking a look at how we have had a major setback coming out of the COVID impact. Now, the HLPS was a movement this year. We can look at the HLPF this year as a movement and a moment for self-assessment. Self-assessment and reporting on national progress. You would have observed that several countries volunteered. Now recall that the VNRS, that is the voluntary national reviews, were done so that countries would take a look and give reports on how they are doing and what they have accomplished in their effort to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So it was country reporting, country discussing, and not only discussing how much they've achieved, but the challenges that they face. Because there have been economic downturns in many of the member states of the United Nations. So this HLPF 2024 is a stock-taking year. It's looking at how we have done and where we're going and what it takes for us to achieve the SDGs with little time to spare, because 2030 is closing in on us. So this year, many member states, and there's a long list of those states. If you find the time, you should, and I'm sure you have done so, look at the reports of the various states, and you can clearly recognize that many of the developed countries that have pledged still have to make good on their contributions. So the HLPF this year is very critical because we've come together to close ranks and recognize how we are to take focus on the very critical Sustainable Development Goals that are priorities. And therefore, goal number 1, goal number 2, goal number 13, 16, and 17 are like the cornerstones for achieving Sustainable Development Goals. And we should pay close attention to these critical goals. And I would close my remarks at this point. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Thank you very much, Excellency, Dr. Dennis Antoine. For those of you that might not know, Excellency, he is from the beautiful island of Grenada, which was recently attacked by the hurricane that passed. It did a number to the island, but we must remember to keep the island in prayer. And then at the same time, not just prayer, we have to render our support because he touched on something very interesting when it comes to the climate change that is very much prevalent at the moment. We can see it every single day as we go out there. And then at the same time, he touched on global partnership. The operative word there for me is reliable. In this time, reliable partnerships is very much important. So, Excellency, I must say thank you very much for bringing that particular word in, reliable, and for stressing on it, because that is something that is very much needed. Everyone wants to be a partner, but no one wants to be reliable. It's just like how I have a saying that I always say: if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. The same way, how will I know if you're a reliable partner, if you are actually working with me here? And in closing, you've also given us a charge, and that charge for me here is what it takes to achieve the SDG by 2030. Well, here this evening, you're going to hear from some of the ambassadors, the peace ambassadors that are representing WOLMI-ICC. You will be hearing from each of them that we have here this evening, and focusing on zero hunger, which is SDG number 2. SDG number 2. It is projected that more than 600 million people worldwide will be facing hunger in 2030, highlighting the immense challenge of achieving the zero hunger target. People experiencing moderate food insecurity are typically unable to eat a healthy, balanced diet on a regular basis because of income or other resources constraints. Goal number 2 is about creating a world free of hunger by 2030. The global issue of hunger and food insecurity has shown an alarming increase since 2015, a trend exacerbated by a combination of factors, including the pandemic, conflict, climate change, the deepening inequalities. By 2022, approximately 735 million people, or 9.2% of the world population, will have find themselves in a state of chronic hunger, a staggering rise compared to 2019. This data underscores the severity of the situation, revealing a growth crisis. In addition, an estimated 2.4 billion people face moderate to severe food insecurity in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I would like to bring to the floor His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Enoch Osi Puku as he comes to make his remarks regarding SDG number 2. Excellency Puku, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, the Department of Northeastern Affairs at WOLMI-ICC is pleased to join the global community at this year's high-level political forum in relevance to the theme, reinforcing the 2030 agenda and eradicating poverty in times of multiple crises, the effective delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions. As peace ambassadors of WOLMI-ICC, we are passionate about the high rate of hunger on humanity and have subjected attention to this year's HLPF to review the Sustainable Development Group 2 and target with respect to advancing solutions to end hunger and malnutrition by 2030 to reinforce the 2030 agenda and towards effective delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions. This is a colossal task. Judging from the current global issue of hunger and food insecurity, especially food inflation in Ghana, jumping over 60% in the past few months. In Ghana, The collective endeavor towards the Sustainable Development Group epitomizes the United Nations steadfast support for the country's journey towards self-reliance. Ghana aims at ending hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition, and promotes sustainable agriculture. Ghana has a special team made up of the World Food Programme and the John Agyekum Kufuor Foundation to reveal a continuous roadmap to achieve its objectives. Ghana has incorporated the goals into their national development plans, not excluding their national budget, and their serious commitment to leave no one behind. They have ensured that their flagship programs, free high school education policy, one district, one factory program, these programs are in line with the reduction and, if possible, eradication of hunger by United Nations Agenda 2030. These programs have helped to reduce illiteracy rate, youth violence, and youth pregnancy have gone down drastically. The major sustainability challenges facing Ghana are inequality and gender gaps, poor and lack of basic and economic infrastructures, limited effectiveness of decentralization, and food and nutrition security dynamics. Lack of enough finances have slowed the successful implementation of planting for food and jobs and the One District, One Factory program. Funding and implementation difficulties, especially in relation to over-dependence on imported seeds and fertilizers. That call for innovative commercial farming, not the current tabletop farming in Ghana and many developing or poor countries, silos for storing agricultural products, investment into agricultural machines such as combine harvesters, cultivators, plotters, tractors, and other capital-intensive agricultural equipment, which is beyond the pocket of these poor farmers. Despite its claim to large reserves of natural and human resources, sub-Saharan Africa remains the poorest continent in the world. The incidence of poverty in Africa is multifaceted and cannot be traced to one cause. However, despite the complications and multifaceted nature of poverty in Africa, bad leadership seems to be the main cause. The reason is simple. Reducing poverty means increasing peace, stability, and political commitment. Growth must be broad-based and rural livelihood fostered to foster massive urban immigration. Ineffective delivery of public service, lack of jobs for the youth, paying bribes, knowing someone before getting a job, nepotism, low access to health care, which affects a healthy workforce, lack of practical education and solves local problems, and corruption has led to a dilapidated infrastructure base and low growth. No wonder Africa's share in global income poverty has risen and continued to rise daily. As its core, many African countries are faced with a crisis in leadership and governments. The leaders of many African countries engage themselves in politics to satisfy personal needs, politics of the belly, and fulfill the wishes of their relatives, nepotism. Their focus is amassing wealth while in power, and thus with little attention is given to state institutions that are relevant in building up the economies of African countries and making them sustainable. The global community have a big role to play by increasing economic mobility and close the equity gap of individuals who lack access to education, health, and jobs to provide tangible economic values, which will reduce poverty in the short, medium term, and ultimately end all forms of hunger and malnutrition by 2030, as we all desire. Ghana can do better if some of these recommendations are taken. Adequate funding of food and nutrition, not wholly dependent on donor support. Private sector involvement is important. At the grassroots, the people should be made to own programs for sustainability's sake. On the vision of WOLMI-ICC from Act 915, As a chosen vessel, I believe the Lord has me here for such a time as this to assist the nation to put all hands on deck, just like Joseph, to store overages and distribute food to the needy. Lastly, I encourage all stakeholders to make sure the signals identified are resolved. If not, they can become terminal. Welfare purpose, which incorporated will bring leaders together to bring lasting solution to this troubled world. I believe personally, Mr. Chair, you asked me what I'm doing. What I'm doing is even my own house. I have a garden that I have okra, maize, pepper, cucumber, tomatoes, and beans that I'm also helping my own neighborhood. So I believe this is my own personal support. And the comprehensive training that I'm also getting from WOLMI-ICC, I believe we can get all leaders together and to channel all such powerful forum, and everything will be fine. We'll be able to meet. But I believe that our time is very short. This is a signal issue. If we are not, the scope or the window that we have to address this issue are very limited. And if not taken care of, it's going to be permanent and terminal. Thank you for your attention, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Excellency Dr. Osipuku. Yes. Having that garden does wonder, and indeed it is a great help to many. And then at the same time, the number of people today, and even growing up, that suffered severely due to hunger. It's mind-boggling. And then to know where we are today, to know the resources, to know the access that is out there. But let me allow the next speaker, who is none other than His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Akwasi Amankwa. Excellency Amankwa, you have the floor, sir.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Sir, Excellencies. Tonight, as a representative of WOLMI-ICC in Northeastern sector, I am dealing with SDG 2 and hunger and achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Throughout history, global issues have impacted countries, affecting them mentally, spiritually, physically, and economically. Issues such as malnutrition, obesity, and micronutrient deficiencies led to serious consequences, such as missed economic opportunities, limiting growth and investment, and population decline. However, the United Nations implemented a system of addressing issues with the goal of improving the quality of life by 2030. Many world leaders have given false hope and promises, leading citizens to lose faith. The economic opportunities that many corrupt leaders use on themselves, building their wealth, especially in Africa, can be used to create opportunities to develop countries in many ways, such as jobs, education, businesses, and technology. Billions of people are lacking the proper nutrients and micronutrients, leading to health risks such as vitamin deficiencies, obesity, weakened bones, mental health problems, population decline. Billions of people need someone they believe they can get a job done. How can billions believe in people who are not qualified for the job to provide a better future for future generations? I believe WOLMI-ICC is here to identify and also give our proposal. One necessity in life is small-scale farmers are the centerpiece of promoting food generosity. Food contains nutrients, micronutrients, vitamins, calories, proteins, and etc., leading to various benefits such as providing energy, good health, recovery, and great immunity. But however, the shortage of food leads to undernourishment and malnourishment. As a medical doctor, it's very, very critical and important for me. Undernourishment occurs when a person consumes a little energy necessary to maintain a healthy and active life. This leads to problems such as weight loss, muscle fatigue, and death. It's essential that we address this issue. Malnutrition is the effect of missing essential nutrients. Deficiencies, imbalances, leading to serious problems. For example, we can see kwashiorkor under the age of 5 years, especially in northern region in the oceanic southeastern part of Asia, and marasmus, that's reduction of iron. They lead to problems such as weight loss, muscle fatigue, and death. Various factors such as gender, age, area, and activity levels, the location impact these factors. Various groups of people are at higher rate of facing malnutrition and undernutrition are children, pregnant women, and elderly. We must address this issue. Almost 50% of deaths of children under 5 have been linked to food insecurity. People with mental health problems, such as depression, anxiety, dementia, may have difficulty to concentrate, communicate their problems with one another, and act. Certain medications can lead to various symptoms such as decreased appetite, weight problems, nutrient malabsorption like Crohn's disease. It is vital for the pregnant woman to have abundance supply of nutrients to reduce the likelihood of deficiencies in providing enough energy for healthy pregnancy. The main target is reducing food insecurity, ensuring access of food to all people, particularly minorities in vulnerable situations such as infants and children, providing nutritious and sufficient food by 2030. I come from Ghana, and my father is or was the best cocoa farmer in 2014. He was invited by Barack Obama, His Excellency, in 2014, and I went with him. My father is having or owning 27 square miles of land in Akram Plains in Ghana. He has cultivated since the year 2000, 10,000 plus acres of land, cultivating cocoa, corn, rice, cashew, mango, vegetables, onions, and etc. But my father is facing hectic problems till now. Number one, lack of agricultural infrastructure, lack of transportation infrastructure. And this goes on for all almost small-scale farmers and big-scale farmers in Ghana. Number three, lack of irrigation system. For his farm is even along the river, Akram River. But because of lack of foreign investors, public investors, even domestic investors, it is very hard for my father to even let this irrigation system be established. Lack of revenue income, difficult to pay laborers. So therefore, my father depends on the revenue he makes from exporting some of these maize, rice, and corn to African countries and use the same to buy tractors and to pay the laborers, which is insufficient. Also, there's insecurity of natural and human disaster, political instability, tribalism, and nepotism. This has made it difficult for ordinary farmers in Ghana, including my father, to push forward to bring great agricultural productivity. Even the road leading to his farm is so difficult with bandits and Fulanis who are killing people. So lack of security from the government is a problem. Also, we have to ensure that WOLMI-ICC suggests United Nations that by 2013, we will end hunger and ensure access by people, in particularly the poor and people in vulnerable areas, including infants, to safe nutritious food, to avoid sickness and also prolong life. Also, end all forms of malnutrition, including achieving by 2025, if possible, the internationally agreed target on stunting and wasting in children under 5 years, and address the nutritional needs of adolescents and pregnant women and the older people, doubling the agricultural productivity, ladies and gentlemen, and income for small-scale food producers, in particular women, indigenous families, and of course, shepherds and fishermen, through secure equal access to land, other productive resources and inputs, knowledge, financial services, markets, and opportunities for value addition and non-farm employment. Increase investment, including through enhanced international cooperation in rural infrastructure, agricultural research, and extensive services, technological development, and plant and livestock gene banks in order to enhance agricultural production capacity in developing countries like Ghana, like Africa, like the Oceanic, and many parts, particularly in the least developed countries. Let us correct and prevent trade restrictions and distortions in world agricultural markets, including through the parallel elimination of all forms of agricultural export subsidies and all export measures to the equivalent effect in accordance with the mandate of Doha Development Fund. Small-scale farmers are the centerpiece of the agricultural economy. And as Africa is yelling and crying for help, yesterday on the news, 82 million of my fellow Nigerians are going to suffer hunger by the 2030. When I watched and heard, I was really displeased. Together, WOLMI-ICC suggests to United Nations Secretary and the false entities to let eradicate hunger, malnutrition, and increase productivity agriculturally for mankind. 2 Kings 2:21, Elisha healed the land by using salt in the water and the land was healed. Together, we need spiritual and ability from the Lord, praying together as ambassadors to the United Nations, and we can make this a reality to the glory of God. No one must die of hunger. Thank you very much for listening. God richly bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Excellency, for that passionate delivery, and to know that your father is doing such a wonderful job by utilizing his land. It's something that is to be commended. So I personally want to say thank you very much for that. And with that, you know, extreme hunger and malnutrition remain a barrier to sustainable development, and it creates a trap from which people cannot easily escape. Hunger and malnutrition means less productive individual. You're hungry, how productive can you be? I know for me personally, when I get hungry, my mother says, when I'm hungry, I don't see, I don't hear, and if possible, I can't think. So I need food so that I can be able to be in my right mind and be able to function. It's one thing when as Christians you're fasting, that's something else. But when you're hungry, it's something else. So we cannot expect people to be productive or to even deliver when they're hungry. So by attacking and addressing the Zero Hunger Initiative, the Zero Hunger SDG, it's very, very, very much important. Let me take this time to say thank you very much to both His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Enoch Osipuku, as well as His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Akwasi Amankwa. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now to SDG number 13. To address climate change, we must vastly raise our ambition at all levels. Much is happening around the world. Investments in renewable energy have soared, but more needs to be done. The world must transform its energy, industry, transportation, food, agriculture, and forestry system to ensure that we can limit global temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius, maybe even 1.5 degrees Celsius. In December 2015, the world took a significant first step by adopting the Paris Agreement, in which all countries committed to take action to address climate change. However, more actions are critically needed to meet the target. Businesses and investors need to ensure emissions are lowered, not just because it is the right thing to do, but because it makes economic and business sense as well. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished ambassadors, distinguished guests, for those of you listening, let us take this time to hear from Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Yvette Brown, who will come and speak to us on climate action, SDG number 13. Her Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Excellencies. Sustainable Development Goal number 13 is directed at taking urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts by 2030. Climate change is reaching a cataclysmic proportion, altering and affecting the lives of every human being on planet Earth. Sustainable Development 13 aims at taking actions to reduce the effects of climate change, which includes diminishing deadly air pollution, minimizing risk from disasters, manage and conserve forests, reduce deforestation, and assist forest communities, cut emissions from transport on air, land, and sea, and make urban areas more sustainable, energy efficient, and livable. According to the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, in a speech delivered June 2024, he says that the annual SDG report shows that the world is getting a failing grade, and failure to confront climate change is a part of it. In the more recent years, the intense effects of climate changes are being felt across the world. According to the World Meteorological Organization, WMO, last September 2023 was the hottest one ever, putting 2023 on track to be the warmest year ever. This continues an extended streak of extreme land and sea surface temperatures and a clear sign of the speed with which greenhouse gas are changing the climate. The goal of reducing the average global temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030 seem far-fetched. According to reports from the United Nations, extreme weather are causing growing food security, rising sea levels, flooding, deforestation, and population displacement, water shortage and soil erosion, wildfires, ocean acidification have negatively impacted agriculture and fishery. The heavy use of coal, oil, and gas have fueled the world's industrialization and have contributed enormously to economic development. However, energy-related carbon dioxide emissions currently account for about 2/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions. The country Fiji was ranked globally among the top 15 countries with the highest disaster risk because 75% of the total population are coastal dwellers with total dependence on the coastline. This exposes them to the worst impacts of the sea level rising and sea erosion, contaminated drinking water, and flooding at high tide. Tropical storms and cyclones have occurred, and entire communities had to be relocated. The statistics shows that sea level rose by 45%, coastal flooding by 41%, and economic damage has occurred about $1.3 billion US. People depending on farming, fishing, and herding for their survival are left almost with nothing. To help to bring solution to the problem, the government of Fiji have built into their system a nature-based solution. An example of this is restoring the ecosystem, like creating mangrove swamps in the coastal communities, improve fisheries, and boost carbon sequestration. The success of SDGs includes a whole of society approach. To combat climate change, it is important that the whole of society approach is utilized. The interconnectedness of the SDGs showcase key examples of the role of stakeholders, private sectors, civil society, academia, youth networks, and ordinary citizens in advancing the SDGs at the national level. Promoting sustainable lifestyle within the communities by using things like solar energy, planting more trees, along with more financial help from the government and using modern technology, can have a far-reaching effect. The WOLMI International Consulting Cabinet, ICC, can contribute to accomplishing SDG number 13 goal by being guided by and operating in accordance with its mandate and principles of fulfilling the Act's 915 assignment. The mission is to train, develop, empower, equip, and certify believers across the globe to become marketplace ministers of the gospel and change agents. To help accomplish SDG 13 by 2030, WOLMI-ICC can help a major role in collaboration with partnering with various stakeholders, academia, private and public sectors, and contribute in the following ways. As a global academic organization, climate change could be made a part of its curricula through the university. Partner with stakeholders and private sectors to merge technology and digital tools with the communities and encourage young people to study in the field of forestry or clean energy development. Collaborate in research and development of programs that can be available to the needy, like creating eco-friendly products that comply with established environmental regulations. Assist with projects aimed at improving a healthy environment, food security, health and wellness program, and clean water sources, and help to bring greater awareness about SDG 13. Leverage its credentials to offer specialized training on climate change, sustainable consumption and production of goods and services, marine life, coastal ecosystems, and forestry. In Genesis chapter 41 and 47, Joseph, under divine guidance, gave Pharaoh and the Egyptian ruler solutions to a pending crisis. The solution was that during the years of prosperity, there should be a strategic planning and preparation. When the famine arrived 7 years later, Joseph used the stored resources to solve the human problem. The result of proper planning under divine guidance provide necessary life-saving provision during the crisis. This biblical principle can be customized and developed and implemented across the board today to help accomplish SDG 13 goals. Peace ambassadors from various ICC departments can be trained and equipped to play a role in implementing some programs, evaluating the progress made, and share the information. In conclusion, for SDG 13's goal to succeed, the Department of WOLMI-ICC and Northeastern Affairs recommend that we can work together to build strategic partnerships with key regional institutions and other major groups. They can promote sharing of knowledge, lessons learned, and best practices with other regions, as well as ensuring maximum synergies with existing initiatives. It will take a whole of society approach so that no one is left behind. I thank you.
Your Excellency, thank you. And you brought in from the scriptures that young man Joseph. I will save my comment on Joseph for the end, because I want to let you folks know, seeing that we have the religious side here, I want to let you folks know how Joseph played a role in all 17 SDGs, all 17. Coming to us next to speak on the goal 16. Goal 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. So goal 16 is about promoting peaceful and inclusive societies, providing access to justice for all, and building effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. People everywhere should be free of fear from all forms of violence and feel safe as they go about their lives, whatever their ethnicity, faith, or sexual orientation. High levels of armed violence and insecurity have a destructive impact on a country's development. Sexual violence, crime, exploitation, and torture are prevalent where there is conflict or no rule of law. Government, civil society, and communities need to work together to find lasting solutions to conflict and insecurity. Strengthening the rule of law and promoting human rights is key to this process, as is reducing the flow of illicit arms, combating corruption, and always ensuring inclusive participation. Ladies and gentlemen, let us hear from Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Angela Gracie as she comes to speak to us on peace, justice, and strong institutions, SDG 17. Her Excellency Gracie, you have the floor.
Greetings. Thank you, Your Excellency. SDG 16 aims to promote just, peaceful, and inclusive societies for sustainable development, to provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. SDG 16 includes 12 targets and has 24 indicators. The UN Security Council has the primary responsibility for international peace and security. The General Assembly and the Secretary General play major and important and complementary roles along with other UN offices and bodies. The Security Council takes the lead in determining the existence of a threat to peace and or an act of aggression. It calls upon the parties in the dispute to settle it by peaceful means and recommends methods of adjustment or terms of settlement. Under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, the Security Council can take enforcement measures to maintain or restore international peace and security. Such measures range from economic sanctions to international military action. The Council also establishes UN peacekeeping operations and special political missions. One of the most effective strategies that the UN Security Council uses to minimize massive suffering is through preventive diplomacy and mediation. Among the tools used to bring peace are special envoys and political missions in the field. Transitional justice is an integral part of the peace mediation process. The United Nations policy and many United Nations public statements insist that there is no competition, that there be no compromise between obtaining peace and achieving justice. In many contexts, it is a major challenge to find a path to peace in a manner that fully respects the demand for justice. Confronting this issue may even put peace talks at risk. The Office on Drugs and Crime on July 5, 2024, a new progress report on the indicators under SDG 16 revealed that there has been little or no progress in fulfilling the 2030 agenda, and there is limited information available. Peace and security are prerequisites for sustainable development. It's difficult, if not possible, for civil societies to progress under the threat of violence and insecurity of any kind. Violence, some of the key findings of the report state that violence is on the rise. Intentional homicides peaked in 2021, and armed conflicts claimed the lives of nearly 17,000 civilians, marking a 53% increase from the previous year. There's an increase in child trafficking, with 28% in 2014 rising to 35% in 2021. Access to justice remains very limited due to widespread, entrenched, institutional discrimination, and the voices of victims are not heard. The world is on track for achieving only 15% of the SDG goals by 2030. In the United States, the current administration has pledged to re-engage with international systems and standards. Re-engaging with the larger framework of the United Nations will strengthen and reinforce federal government, offering exposure to shared practices and a commitment to promoting the Sustainable Development Goals. This will in turn have a direct impact on the state and local governments. In Europe, deaths due to homicide or assault and the perceived occurrence of crime and vandalism have increased considerably over the past few years, as well as the number of victims in human trafficking have increased. What are these implications for WOLMI? It is important to recognize that WOLMI has done well in mobilization, management, and training its core of peace ambassadors. However, there remain challenges with funding, engagement, and collaboration across departments. But moving forward, our mandate is to bring the message and influence of the kingdom of God to the nations and leaders of those nations. We have developed educational programs that have brought education to those who might not otherwise receive it. We now have a public platform on WOLMI TV with a monthly program that showcases our efforts, educates and engages civil society, and to raise awareness and to continue to increase this utilization across departments. Through technology, we are able to engage our international community with educational workshops, trainings, and courses, as well as forums to share the word of God and to encourage and strengthen the body of Christ. Human rights is at the core of the 2030 agenda, and it is the pathway for transformational change. SDG 16 will stimulate fulfillment of all the other SDGs because at its core, it's about our human rights. We must act now, though, to strengthen the rule of law, make justice accessible to all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions. It is the recommendation of the WOLMI-ICC Department of Northeastern Affairs that the following be enacted to fulfill our Acts 9:15 mandate. Nehemiah chapters 1-3 offers us a biblical blueprint for rebuilding in which families are assigned to work on an assigned place on the wall. It is recommended that we do the same. We can begin with the adoption of a single focus on this particular goal and the implementation of a multilateral strategy to fulfill our mandate as it relates to SDG 16. We can establish a task force from members of all WOLMI departments who will conduct research and gather all necessary resources while working with WOLMI-ICC partners and stakeholders. We can develop and deliver training on conflict resolution and the role of peacemaking in society. We can acquire an intranet software platform that will allow WOLMI-ICC members and internal stakeholders to communicate, share information, and collaborate. We can strengthen institutions by establishing strong partnerships with peacekeeping and legal defense organizations, such as the NAACP, the Legal Defense Forum, the National Women's Law Center. We can promote a culture of inclusivity. The first thing Nehemiah did after the wall was completed, he read the word of God to the people. He gathered them and reminded them of who they were. He restored their sense of belonging and self-worth, and thereby building a more cohesive and safer environment for which to live. We can deploy our chaplains in ministry and in the marketplace to address emotional and spiritual trauma resulting from crisis and conflict. I'm sorry, I lost my place. We are called to peace. As we work to facilitate peace, including the voices of victims, exacting justice by holding our political leaders accountable and strengthening institutions through education and advocacy at all levels, we establish the kingdom, righteousness, peace, and joy, and begin to restore peace and security, dignity, pride, and self-respect to every nation that we encounter. Blessed are the peacemakers who work for peace. They shall be called the children of God.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Her Excellency. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And thank you for reminding us as well. At this time, we will now hear from His Excellency Ambassador Professor Vincent Bullis.
Sorry, I guess I noticed that the host has probably blocked my video. Said start video. I guess you can see me.
Yes, we can see you.
Good.
Go ahead.
Thank you. WOLMI 2024 United Nations High Level Political Forum. I'm here to make a statement and under the role of institutions in the promotion of peace and justice in the world. Acts chapter 9 verse 15 says, I quote, "But the Lord said to him, Go, for he is a chosen instrument of mine, to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and sons of Israel." The ability to sustain a thriving human society is heavily dependent on a state of peace. As I cited in Acts chapter 9, verse 15, a little bit extended version of it says, God professes Saul to be a minister of this peace. Saul, who was until then a tireless prosecutor of the church, it shows the inclusive and encompassing nature of God's love to Jews and Gentiles alike. Saul's conversion affirms that even those who have committed great wrongs can change. This aligns with the principles of restorative justice, which focuses on rehabilitation. By reflecting on this verse, we can draw inspiration for promoting peace and justice in the world today. But the world is very far from achieving a state of stable peace. The United Nations recorded at least 106,806 civilian deaths in 12 of the world's deadliest armed conflicts between 2015 and 2017. This translates to an average of 11.9 civilian deaths per 100 people annually. It is estimated that 1 in 8 of these deaths was a woman or child, the most vulnerable. The statistics get even worse. Joyce Musaya, Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Deputy Emergency Relief Coordinator, cited conflicts in Gaza, Sudan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, MENA, Nigeria, the Sahel, Somalia, Syria, and Ukraine. She reportedly that in total, the United Nations alone recorded more than 33,000 civilian deaths in armed conflicts in 2023, up by 72% from 2022. Steps rise in conflict-related civilian deaths, with an over 50% surge in 2022, fueled by the war in Ukraine. 2021 saw the highest number of international homicides in 20 years. 458,000 lives lost. 9 in 10 victims were male. So peace, justice, and strong institutions is the key. Nearly 200,000 trafficking victims were detected worldwide between 2017 and 2020. More than 108.4 million people had been forcefully displaced worldwide as of end of 2022. 2.5. The number has increased in a decade ago. There are many who till now, they are undetected. These are the dear statistics, but sadly, this is the reality that we are faced with. Conflict begets more branches and breaches of humanitarian laws. Sexual violence, organized crimes, exploitation, and trafficking are prevalent where there is conflict or no law or no rule of law. This has a destructive impact on a country's economic development, causes societal structures to break down, and severely compromise the potential for people to flourish. To tackle these challenges and build more peaceful, inclusive societies, there is need to be more efficient and transparent regulations put in place and comprehensive, realistic government budgets. One of the first steps towards protecting individuals' rights is the implementation of worldwide birth registration and the creation of more independent national human rights institutions around the world. How can you protect people, provide their needs, when you don't have a fair statistic number of who and who? Like in my place, the northern Nigeria, a classmate of mine that I grew up with in primary school, he has 3 wives and he has 20 children already. And the women are competing who have more children than the other. So imagine that my Honorable Excellency Baneste is the president of Nigeria. How can you control a number like that without having a factual statistic number of people? When you budget for 1 million and women are competing and having more children with the highest rate of poverty, no education, it makes it difficult to provide the needs of those people. And as such, we have a lot to do. To that end, the aim of this presentation is to contribute to the ongoing conversation around the achievement of peace and justice and the role that institutions played in enabling it in our societies. Now, developing countries like Nigeria, my neighboring beloved people, Cameroon, Ghana, and others around, we seem to have very common traditional challenges. And I had some of my great excellencies, they have mentioned similar challenges that spread around. Anything that happened to Nigeria, I bet you, it goes to Ghana, it goes to Cameroon, it goes to all around. So the absence of war should not be confused with the presence of peace. In Shugata das Gupta in 1968, in my little research as I was preparing to make this presentation, the explanation of peace, for him, he viewed war and peace as 2 concepts in a zero-sum relationship.
30 seconds remaining, sir.
And as such, the absence of one does not necessitate the presence of the other. Economic and social problems in society often suggest a lack of peace. And the triggers for conflict lies in this condition. When you don't have peace, no matter how good you are, there's nothing you can do. So Gata's concepts seek to address the root causes of conflict and lay the foundation for sustainable human development, of which you and I are privileged and blessed to be part of this such.
Thank you.
Some of the undying.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Excellency, for your remarks. Thank you. And for reminding us as well of how important peace is in this time, the level of injustice, and then at the same time thinking about some of the decisions and the choices that we make as individuals. And as you said in regards to your village as well, why make more children and punish them? You're already punishing. Why make more and bring more and punish them? You're contributing to the problems when you put yourself in that position. when you deliberately go and do that. But here we're taking the time to bring solutions to help to alleviate these problems. And from all of that, is where a lot of resentment, a lot of discrimination, a lot of violence against human rights can come about and contribute to the violence at the same time, which interrupts any form of peace or justice that we're trying to get. And then at the same time, institutions that do not function according to legitimate laws, they are more prone to abuse of power and less capable of delivering public services to everyone. So let's take a page from this as we address and we look at SDG 16. So coming to us now on SDG 17, SDG 17 focuses on partnership for the goals. Partnership for the goals. There's 17, let's say this way, there's 16 goals. 17 is a goal, yes, but there's 16 goals, but number 17, the 17th goal is the man that creates that avenue so that from 1 through 16 you can pull a page from 17 and pull a blueprint from 17. So goal 17 is about revitalizing the global partnerships for sustainable development. The 2030 agenda is universal and calls for action by all countries, not one, not two, not yours, not mine alone, but all countries, developed and developing, to ensure no one is left behind. And that's key. No one is left behind. You don't want to be left behind. Likewise, I don't want to be left behind. It requires partnership between government, the private sector, and civil society. The Sustainable Development Goals can only be realized with a strong commitment to global partnership and cooperation to ensure no one is left behind in our journey to development. However, not all countries are setting off from the same start line, and low and middle income countries are facing a tidal wave of debt, which they are treading water. Developing countries are grappling with an unprecedented rise in external debt levels following the COVID-19 pandemic, compounded by challenges such as record inflation, escalating interest rates, competing priorities, and constrained fiscal capacity, underscoring the urgent need for debt relief and financial assistance. While official development assistance, ODA, flows continue to reach record peaks, the increase in 2022 is primarily contributed to spending on refugees in donor countries and aid to Ukraine. To be successful, everyone will need to mobilize both existing and additional resources, and developed countries will need to fulfill their official development assistance commitment. Considering the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen that strengthening multilateralism and global partnerships are more important than ever if we are to solve the world's problem. We are all in this together. So the agenda, with its 17 goals, is universal and calls for action by all countries, both developed countries and developing countries, to ensure no one is left behind. With that being said, let us hear from Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Maureen Brown Phillips as she delivers her remarks on SDG 17. Her Excellency Phillips, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, SDG 17 seeks to strengthen global partnership to support and achieve the ambitious targets of the 2030 Agenda, bringing together national governments, the international community, civil society, the private sector, and other actors. This includes multi-stakeholder partnerships that mobilize and share knowledge, expertise, technology, and financial resources in all countries, particularly in developing nations. Its 19 targets span finance, technology, capacity building, trade, and systemic issues. In addition, the means of implementation are integrated across the other goals, underlining their cross-cutting nature. The concrete policies and actions of the Addis Ababa Agenda on financing for development provide a strong foundation to support the achievement of the SDGs. Despite some advances in achieving certain areas of the 17 goals, Secretary General Antonio Guterres remarked on June 28, 2024, that only 17% of the SDG targets are on track, and that progress on over 1/3 has stalled or even regressed. He emphasized the fact that many developing countries lack the financial resources and the fiscal space to invest in their futures and the future of their people. He underscored the need to accelerate action for the achievement of the SDG goals. Based on one report, developing countries are grappling with an unprecedented rise in external debt levels following the COVID-19 pandemic, compounded by challenges such as record inflation, escalating interest rates, competing priorities, and constrained fiscal capacity, underscoring the urgent need for debt relief and financial assistance. According to the 2023 Sustainable Development Goals Report, merchandise trade has stagnated at around 1% since 2011, and many developing countries are currently facing a debt crisis. Based on the statistics, as of November 2022, 37 out of 69 of the world's poorest countries were in debt distress or at a high risk. Goal 17 aims to create action for partnerships for all the goals, which requires a multi-sectoral approach that integrates efforts across various levels. The 2030 Agenda recognizes the capacity building forms part of the means of implementation for the SDGs. Multi-stakeholder partnerships can be forged and may also include trade, technology, national strategies, and SDG integration, science, and financial inclusion, which has become a critical component to the SDGs. Her Majesty Queen Maxima of the Netherlands serves as the UN Secretary General's Special Advocate for Inclusive Finance for Development. She is a leading global voice on advancing access and usage of affordable, effective, and responsible financial services that lead to positive outcomes in people's lives. According to UN statistics, as of 2021, 76% of adults worldwide now have an account with a financial institution or a mobile money service provider. And account ownership around the world increased by 51% since 2011. In the Philippines, sari-sari retail stores are vital parts of the community fabric, offering daily necessities and services close to home. However, these family-run businesses often grapple with challenges such as limited access to capital, difficulties with inventory management, and vulnerability to economic and natural disruptions. In 2016, Grocery was launched to empower these small merchants by providing affordable products, e-business solutions, and critical financial services. A pioneering tech-enabled B2B platform, Grocery is revolutionizing how retail stores operate and grow. By providing tailored financial products, Grocery helps these stores thrive in a competitive market. This arrangement not only eases cash flow pressures, but also enables retail stores to be more fully stocked and experiment with new products. This benefits store owners through increased sales, offer greater convenience to customers, and business expansion. So, this financial support enables local entrepreneurs to thrive and serve their communities more effectively. What role has WOLMI International Consulting Cabinet played and continues to play in achieving Goal 17?
Being guided by and operating in accordance with the mandate and principles of fulfilling the Acts 915 assignment, WOLMI-ICC's mission is to train, develop, empower, equip, and certify believers across the globe to become marketplace ministers of the gospel and change agents. To help accomplish their goals by 2030, WOLMI-ICC has adopted a comprehensive and meaningful approach, which includes collaboration and partnership with multiple stakeholders to support local engagement. To increase access to equitable and affordable higher education, WOLMI-ICC has partnered with SAICA International University Technical Center of Excellence, which has been approved as a City and Guild Center to offer professional recognition awards. SAICA International University also has affiliate schools, both local and international. Partnership played a significant role in the construction of the Tabernacle of Moses. People's skill sets were different, but they understood their roles and worked harmoniously according to God's blueprint to accomplish the task. WOLMI Peace Ambassadors are on a divine assignment and can adopt that same model in any sphere of influence. In conclusion, to achieve SDG 17, WOLMI-ICC with the Department of Northeastern Affairs recommends that, number one, all the ICC departments can forge stronger partnership relationships. Through these, they can share best practices, build capacity through the provision of workshops and online training courses, share knowledge, expertise, and technologies. Number two, Peace Ambassadors can be included as valuable partners in implementing Goal 17 by staying informed, helping raise awareness, buying imported goods, among other activities. On a personal level, I partner with my sister and a few other individuals to ship barrels of clothes, food, and educational material to an orphanage in Zambia every year. I also partner with a nonprofit organization to feed 30 children weekly at a high school in Jamaica through a lunch feeding program. These efforts help to address hunger, poverty, and other SDGs. Through collaboration and shared partnership, together, we can accelerate the recovery and facilitate the full implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at all levels and leave no one behind. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you for that wonderful and remarkable presentation on bringing together the partnership role. So I will allow Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Monica Sanchez to take the floor now with her remarks.
Greeting, Mr. Chair. Observing all protocol and showing respect to all participant hosts and special guests. Your Excellency, I bring you greetings from WOLMI-ICC. I am Dr. Monica Sanchez, and my statement is on partnership. Since the adoption of the 17th SDG and its target, efforts have geared towards achieving SDG successes through partnership. Furthermore, achieving action on SDG, the UN summarized these 17 goals and targets in the 5 P to include people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. The SDG is to strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Progress towards achieving SDG 17 has been mixed. On one hand, there have been some advances in areas such as development aid, remittance flow, and access to technology. However, funding for development remains a major challenge, particularly in low-income countries and among civil society. Yet a major surge in coercive action is needed to ensure developing countries have access to financing and technology needed to accelerate SDG implementation. Since the pronouncement on more needed commitment towards achieving SDG successes by the decade of action, focus has been called on multi-stakeholders partnership and SDG integration. Chair, to be brave through the 17th partnership must be designed to strengthen the means of implementation and revitalization of the global goals. It must be about partnership of all 17 SDGs. They must be an inclusion of healthy environment, society, and prosperous economy. This can be achieved with the collaboration among civil societies, business, government, NGO, foundation academies, and other entities. Focus at Word of Life Ministry International and International Consulting Cabinet, the WOLMI-ICC Peace Ambassador Initiative, has expanded the agenda of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals across the global communities. The Governing Council of WOLMI, under the leadership of His Excellency Right Honor Dr. Philip Finn, has provided a platform for the operation and implementation of the SDG through mentorship, education, diplomatic protocol, empowerment skills, and maintaining the high standard drive for peace ambassadors across the world. To advance the mission of the 2030 development agenda along the objective of WOLMI-ICC initiative. The WOLMI-ICC, through the various departments and partnerships, have evaluated internet access, rising debt burdens, and threatening all countries from pandemic recovery and migration of climate change to achieve the most robust, effective collaboration across its numerous departments of operation, establishing building blocks in place to maximize its partnership agenda globally. Today, WOLMI-ICC have designed a new way of working together by integrating of regional operations, including the 6 regions. The right set of resources is needed to strengthen partnership, solve the problem, establish equal and good working opportunities for improvement of skill leading to higher productive level, which will bring higher success and forward movement towards the 17th SDG by 2030. How do we advance implementation to achieve partnership success? First, we must passionately supportive, inventive, and most of all, work together as one body. Together, we must build an initiative to develop a measurement of progression SDG that will complement gross domestic product and support statistic capacity building in all countries and commodities. We must encourage government, private, and civil society partnership, building on the experience and resource and strategy of all. Respect national leadership to implement the policy for sustainable development goals, policy space, leadership, and eradication of poverty. Enhance political coherence for SDG and better strategy for issues such as duty-free and code-free market access in all countries, consistent with World Trade Organization decisions. Promote the universal rule based on non-discriminatory and equitable multilateral trading system under the World Trade Organization. Assist developed countries in attaining long-term debt stability relief and debt reconstructing as appropriate, and address the external debts of high endeavor poor countries to reduce their distress. This is an urgent call for action by all countries to work together globally, hand in hand, with strategy that will improve health and education, eradicate hunger and poverty, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tracking climate change and working to preserve our ocean and forests. With the revitalization of peaceful and inclusive society, with justice for all and effective accountability. In conclusion, when we as a global community can collaborate and work together on the partnership, the SDG would be much closer to the 2030 revitalization and a more peaceful world. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So everyone who has made a significant contribution here today, let me say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Indeed, your input is very much timely. Your review is very much timely as we look at this forum currently addressing SDG 17, SDG 16, 13, 2, and not forgetting 1 as well that deals with poverty. It is very much interesting when we look at how we can address and how we can function and how we can contribute to the solution of the problem that we face currently. So at this time, before I bring the co-chair, I would like to ask His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Eric Minter to give us the call to action on the roadmap of action for reinforcing the 2030 agenda and eradicating poverty in times of multiple crises, the effective delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions, and the way forward for the mission of WOLMI-ICC. Excellency Ambassador Minter, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Dr. Bannister. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed delegates and distinguished guests, with our gathering here at the United Nations for this high-level political forum on sustainable development, we stand at a pivotal moment in our shared history. Today, we have the opportunity to change the trajectory of our planet and its people. From us at WOLMI and ICC, the goals we've set for ourselves in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development are not just aspirations. They are imperatives. They demand our collective action, resolve, and urgency. And that time to act is now. When we look at the current challenges, a lot have been said. Across the globe, we are witnessing the profound impacts of climate change, inequality, and systemic injustice. Recent reports highlight that we are far from achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Hunger, poverty, and inequality are on the rise, and our ecosystems are under unprecedented threat. In 2023, we find ourselves grappling with the consequences of the global pandemic, geopolitical tensions, economic instability, and social unrest. These overlapping crises reinforce the message that our challenges are interconnected. Our response, therefore, must be equally interconnected. Now, as we speak today, poorer communities and disproportionately affected, suffering from food and water insecurity, climate disasters, and lack of access to education and healthcare. A lot have been said. This is not just an economic or environmental crisis. It is a crisis of justice. Now the call to action. What must we do? I'm before you today to issue a clarion call to action, one that is driven by 3 critical pillars, and that is unity, urgency, and innovation. The first, unity. We must come together across boundaries, national, cultural, and political. We cannot allow division to hinder our efforts. Let us harness the power of collaboration. Government, civil society, and private sector, and individuals even must work hard or hand in hand to create a sustainable future. Let us commit to fostering partnerships that give voice to marginalized communities and empower youth and women, those who will inherit the future we create today. Together, we can pave the way toward achieving the SDGs for all humanity. The second urgency, the window to act is closing rapidly. Climate scientists warn us that we are less than a decade to make the profound changes necessary to avoid catastrophic climate change. So let us commit to tangible actions now. Renewable energy investments, sustainable agriculture, and resilient infrastructure. Moreover, we must also prioritize funding for developing nations, ensuring equitable access to technology and supporting capacity building. We must work to mobilize the billions needed to reach our sustainable development goals by leveraging financial systems and innovative financing mechanisms. The third, which is innovation, must be at the core of our approach. The challenges we face require creative solutions, solutions that harness the ingenuity of our technology, science, and communities. This means investing in green technologies, circular economies, and sustainable practices that respect our planet's limits. We must also prioritize education and research. Let's empower our youth with the knowledge and skills to forge a sustainable future. By sharing best practices and fostering dialogue, we can amplify our efforts and inspire change. In my conclusion, let us, on this platform, let this forum be a turning point, an inflection moment that propels us towards meaningful action. Let us leave here today, not just with words, but with a renewed commitment. We must cultivate a sense of responsibility, not just for our nations, but for each other and for our planet. As we embark on this journey, let us remember that sustainable development is not merely a goal, but a pathway to justice, equality, and a thriving world for generations to come. I urge you all, let us stand united in this call to action. Together, we can transform our shared vision into reality. The future is waiting. Let's act, and let's act decisively. I echo the voice from Isaiah 43:19, where the prophet says, "Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not yet know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." Some say that this verse is about God offering a fresh start, and that it's like God saying, "I have something better and different for you, but it's going to require you to keep moving forward." Others say that when God does a new thing, it's not something he hasn't done before, but rather a way to refresh reality with new hope and life. I concur with both views, and I thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for that call to action. I hope each of you here and those of you listening as well, you have taken that charge and that mandate. I want to also let you know something. As peace ambassadors, as ambassadors out there, one of the reasons why you became an ambassador, you have to remember that you have a message. You've been sent with a message. And that is the purpose of an ambassador, to carry the message, to bring the message, right? But at the same time, you possess something in your hand that is coveted by many. And that thing that you're coveted, that you possess, sorry, it's called access. One of the previous speakers referred Joseph. Remember, Joseph had access. And once that access was given to him, he didn't keep it for himself. He made it accessible to the people. More so, his family and the others as well. In today's society, we have a lot, not ambassadors alone, and I hope none of you here on my screen joining me here this evening, they have access to the resources, they have access to the ideas, they have access to anything that is needed to help the people, to aid the SDGs, be it 1 through 17, but they keep it for themselves. You are here as WOLMI International Consulting Cabinet Peace Ambassadors because someone granted you access. They've seen that you have the resources or the idea, and they've granted you that access. I implore you to grant the same access to others as you continue serving. And not just for you here, but for those of you attending, or for those of you listening to us here this evening. You have access to something. Don't keep it just for yourself. Grant it to someone as well, and watch how that person can grant it to someone. Because, hey, some of us, we have money, but today, tomorrow, you die. Your money goes nowhere. It doesn't go nowhere with you. Some of you, you have so many creative ideas that can help to curb SDG 1 through 17, whichever, multiple. Utilize that resource. Utilize that idea. Build that partnership. And that is part of the reason why WOLMI-ICC, we come together, because we have individuals, we have ambassadors from all walks of life. So remember that you have access, and you need, and you must grant that access to others as well. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, delegates, distinguished guests, for those of you listening to us who are attending here this evening, I must say thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being here with us. And at this time, I would like to ask for Excellency Dr. Mary Floyd Palmer, the co-chair for the Northeastern Affairs Department, to come and give us the closing remarks. Her Excellency Dr. Palmer, the floor is yours.
Grace and peace be unto you. Please forgive me for being off camera as I am driving and talking to you at the same time. And so that I would not be distracted and end up along the highway, I'm looking forward, but I've been intently listening. Grace and peace be unto you, my fellow brothers and sisters in arms, and my fellow ambassadors, all of which are on here for tonight. I was needed in ministry 5 hours from Philadelphia, and I'm now returning back. So pray my strength and my eyes to remain open. The SDG 17 Sustainable Goals are something that has been envisioned, and it seems as if progress is happening. As I was listening intently once I joined in, much has been said that is very encouraging and heartwarming. And to know that some progress, no matter how little or large, is being achieved. It also made me believe that it was stated, do not leave anyone behind. And it immediately made me think of Genesis chapter 4, I believe, where the question or the phrase was asked, am I my brother or sister's keeper? It is something that I think all of us at some point have to challenge ourselves, not only in the occupations we do, but in the ministries that we lead. Am I my brother or sister's keeper? And of course, there was a response, as I recall, because we are. Now, we can all do things together and we can all come up with great creative ideas. But as our chair just said, if we keep them to ourselves and we are not allowing access and sharing them, then we are operating in what we know as silos. Silos are great for containing things, but silos do not share. Silos stand alone. And what we must learn to do is to be able to read, learn, and share with each other. It is my hope that in this time where our nation is in a plunder, and if we are watching the recent events between the Democratic and the Republican Party, we have much to pray for. As much as we do for those in countries all around the world with which we represent that are suffering as well. But it is more than just praying time, because faith without works is dead. And it means that we have to roll up our sleeves and actually tangibly do something that can make the lie. Here in Philadelphia, where I will be heading and on my way home, we are the biggest poorest city in the U.S., rated in 23% poverty rate. And yet we have skyscrapers. We have brand new booming construction, high rises, wealthy areas, almost a separation by blocks of the have and the have-nots. The economy is moving in a positive way, but 5.5 blocks from the core of our city is a whole neighborhood where the children may only get fed one meal, if that, a day. Tangible resources provoke me in my ministry in West Philadelphia to feed the community that is without once a month at no cost to them, provide food, clothing, and tangible personal items that will help them to be sustained until the next month. This is not just for those that are homeless, those with mental issues, those who may be squatting in abandoned houses, but it is even for the poor mother who has 3 kids not earning enough money to feed her children a hot meal every day. This is what I mean by us being tangible and accessible. So if we're going to be doing good for the whole, we also have to do good for the part, meaning that we need to be cohesive and complementary, working in tandem, cooperating and collaborating with one another for the good of the whole community. In conclusion, may I say that as I listen to what is happening around the world, and I'm excited for the future and what is to come, I am reminded by Acts chapter 1, verse 8, where it says, but ye shall receive power. After that, the Holy Ghost has come upon you, first in Jerusalem. And as much as we may want to save the world, it would be a shame that we live next door to a neighbor who has no water. We live on a street where there's a senior who is mixing dog food with oodles and noodles so she can survive. That we who have means won't give a single mother with 5 kids, so what if she has many baby daddies, enough clothes to buy clean clothes for her children. And that if we can show our tangibility in our Jerusalem, then God will multiply that greatly for us to do it, not only in our block and in our neighborhood and in our community and in our city and in our state, but in our nation and all around the world. Be encouraged today for the progress that has been made, but don't let go. As my grandma would say, hold on to your hope. Because it's the hope that is within us that gives us the strength to endure to the end. We are called and chosen, and our Acts 9:15 mandate means that we are to do so. And anyone that is called and chosen must do so until the returning of the Lord Jesus Christ. Be strengthened, my brothers and sisters, in all that you do. And don't forget, at the end of the day, besides hearing well done, make sure that only what you do for Christ will last. May God ever bless you and keep you in his hands and his care until we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency, Dr. Mary Floyd Palmer. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, it has been a great pleasure. It has been an honor and a delight to have each of you here to deliver your remarks. His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Dept Antoine, thank you very much for taking the time out from your busy schedule today to be here with us and to set the pace and to set the tone for this evening conversation here with these wonderful delegates. To all of you, continue the good work that you're doing, and remember, you have access. Grant the same access onto others. To those attending and listening to us, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you want more information on WOLMI International, you can Google www.wolmient.org. And there you can find information regarding WOLMI International as well as WOLMI International Consulting Cabinet. With that being said, let me say again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I must say as well, thank you very much to Our Excellency Dr. Adejuni for leading your department with such excellence. This department has have a wonderful leader who is Dr. Ada. So thank you very much, Dr. Ada, for your excellent leadership. And again, we do look forward to a copy of this review. It is shared, the link, is being broadcasted and is shared. It's being viewed via YouTube as well as Facebook. For those of you that doesn't have it, we will get it to you. Just send a message to anyone, whomever invited you here this evening. Once again, thank you very much and have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for wonderful moderation, and thanks everyone for I was excited for your presentations and on the point of what we are looking for. So that's bravo to each and every one of us. Thank you all. And thank you, Your Excellency, who is on the emergency assignment in Grenada for this emergency situation. And he was able to honor our invitation to really come and speak to us. Your Excellency, Dr. Antoine, we appreciate you more. God will continue to bless you. And Dr. Bannister, I will not thank you because you have continued to do. Whenever I call you, you answer me or else I impeach you. Good night, everyone. Thank you all and happy weekend. Yeah, I think those of you on the attendee, thanks for coming, and I hope those of you who want to join our department, you are free to join us to learn more about UN and how to be a practicing ambassador. Thank you all.
Good evening, everybody.
For the
Blessings.
presentations, we are going to have the voluntary ambassadors SDG review journal, and all the presentation will be published in one journal. So we are compiling it, and very soon it will be out. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, all. Good night.